We have all been there at some point or another. For some it has been recently, and for some it has been years or maybe even decades. But there was a time when you made a decision to say goodbye to all that sweet cash you have been saving up and invest it all in a shiny new gaming laptop. But saying that the market on the Windows side of things is fragmented would be like saying there are more than just a few fish in the sea. And with all those fancy marketing terms, model names and numbers that tell you pretty much nothing about what any given notebook can actually do, well, that is where we decided to help you get rid of your training wheels and put together this list of 5 of the most important aspects to keep in mind when shopping for your next mobile gaming machine. Before we get started, this list is far from complete, and there are many more factors that can influence your on-the-go mobile gaming experience. However, these are the major ones in our opinion. But please folks, we are a community for a reason, so if you think you have something to add for your fellow gamers, do not hesitate to put it all in the comments below. And now, without any further ado, let's get into our list. While we have to start with something, all of the things we are talking about today are equally important in my opinion, and they are also linked with each other in some way or another. But still, one of the first things you have to make up your mind about when looking into buying a gaming laptop is the size and the overall construction. While there are some outliers, modern notebooks can easily be classified into 3 sizes, and the display diagonal is mostly used as the main indicator. 60-inch notebooks have by far the biggest share of the market, and there are a plethora of different models to choose from. They are basically your middle-of-the-road approach and very much the sweet spot between portability and performance. 14-inch notebooks are a more recent addition to the market, and while they have to make some sacrifices when it comes to performance, there are some really powerful yet super portable machines available right now if you favor something that is a little bit easier to move around. In 2023, most manufacturers also added 18-inch notebooks to their portfolio. And with desktop-class performance, these are meant to live on your desk for most of their lives while still maintaining some level of portability. In addition to these 3 main sizes, there are the occasional 15-inch and some 17-inch devices, but these have become much more exotic in recent years. In addition to the display size, things like chassis thickness should also be a concern. While there are some very thin devices out there that still claim to be gaming capable, a slimmer chassis means less space for cooling, which generally means less performance, louder fans and higher temperatures. Material selection is also quite important, though the decision of what to buy is much more subjective and depends on how important look and feel are for you. Somewhat related is port selection. Bigger and thicker machines tend to do a lot better in this regard, while slimmer machines simply do not have the space and therefore have to sacrifice I/O, especially when it comes to the bigger connectors like Ethernet ports, for example. Notebooks with a full metal construction tend to be much sturdier and premium feeling machines, mostly with the price tag to match. Plastic keeps the weight down, but some devices end up feeling a little cheaper. But then again, if you are shopping in the entry to mid-range level segments of the market, there are compromises to be made. Our second overall point of selection is of course a laptop's display. As I have mentioned already, size is a deciding factor, but in addition, there's also the underlying display technology and features to consider. Most gaming laptops today have IPS panels, or especially this year, a new generation of faster OLEDs. Within the group of IPS panels, the ones with a mini LED backlight have been on the rise, especially in the more premium segments of the market. These displays use single individual lighting zones and can turn them off completely when dark content is displayed. This leads to much more contrast and, in most cases, much higher overall brightness compared to a traditional evenly lit IPS panel. OLEDs offer a similar advantage but with less brightness on average, and since basically every single pixel is its own lighting zone, you do not have to deal with so-called blooming, which means brighter objects on mini LED displays bleed into darker areas. Both technologies have the disadvantage of using PWM to regulate brightness, which might cause eye strain for some users who are sensitive towards flickering displays. Here at NotebookCheck, we individually measure every display for PWM to enable you to make an informed buying decision. In addition to the main display tech, you may also want to consider the screen's refresh rate and response times. While the first one is mostly clearly advertised by the manufacturer, and more usually means better here, response times can equally affect your gaming experience, with slow numbers making fast games appear blurry and less clear. In general, when it comes to the refresh rate, most gamers today are equipped with 144Hz panels or above, with the premium segment even offering 240Hz displays. For the most part though, the displays are faster than what the hardware inside most of them can actually deliver, so it's something to keep in mind without it being a major deciding factor once you go beyond 120 or 144 Hz. Unless of course you are a super sweaty esports pro. In addition, you should look out for things like FreeSync or G-Sync. This means that the display can synchronize its refresh rate with the frame rate your GPU can deliver. This, in turn, allows for a full frame to be displayed with every refresh cycle and avoids so-called tearing, which can really ruin your gaming experience, especially when dipping below the magical 60 FPS mark in graphically demanding games or when gaming on lower-end hardware. Before we get to the GPU, which is arguably the most important performance indicator, let's have a look at CPUs as our third point to consider when buying a gaming notebook. Truthfully, I would go as far as to say that it does not really matter too much. While you can easily pair a weak CPU with a powerful GPU on the desktop, which will bottleneck the graphics card considerably, most manufacturers put together pairings that mostly make sense. And the difference between individual CPUs will not impact your gaming experience as much as going up or down a tier on the GPU side of things. The decision between Intel or AMD is also relatively easy since both have very competitive products on the market right now, with Team Blue dominating the high-end segment with the latest iteration of their HX CPUs, which will deliver the best results if the highest possible frame rates are your main goal. AMD is still able to top our performance charts though with their HX variants, but you still have a hard time finding products that are actually outfitted with those CPUs. But let's finally talk about the GPU, which is the single most important deciding factor in how much FPS you will get in your favorite games. While there is some level of competition on the desktop side of things, Nvidia dominates the mobile space. And by the way, we are working on a detailed performance analysis for mobile gaming GPUs right now that will give you an in-depth representation of what you can expect from laptop graphics cards in mid-2024. So please be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you won't miss that one once it's live. GPUs are grouped in performance tiers, but as usual there is more to the story than just the product name. AMD and Nvidia alike allow manufacturers to relatively freely set the power levels available to the graphics card, which in turn affects performance quite severely. For example, on Team Green's side you have the 4050 at the lower end, the RTX 4060 and 4070 as mid-range and mainstream options, and the RTX 4080 and 4090 as the fastest cards currently available. So you will be able to find notebooks that on paper offer the same GPU. For example, if we just go back to our recent comparison between the Razer Blade 14 and ROG G14, two premium options in a 14-inch form factor. Both come with the same CPU and the same RTX 4070, but the Razer is able to feed up to 140 watts to its GPU, while the much slimmer G14 maxes out with 90 watts, resulting in much lower overall performance figures. So that is definitely something you should keep in mind when comparing spec sheets. And before we wrap things up, there's our last point and probably the first thing you think about when eyeing a laptop. Your budget and well, the price of your potential new notebook. All the things we talked about of course affect pricing, and once again the GPU is most likely to affect it the most. So machines with a 4050 will be the most affordable of the bunch, while 4090 laptops can easily go beyond $3,000 and then some. In the mid-range, prices tend to blur a little bit when things like premium materials and build quality come into play as well. So it can be that you pay more for an RTX 4060 machine that offers an all-metal chassis and an OLED display than for an RTX 4070 notebook in a mostly plastic chassis. In the end, it is always very hard for us reviewers to give you a recommendation based on pricing alone, since how much you value look and feel and what kind of funds you have at your disposal to spend on your shiny new notebooks is always a very personal decision. But as always, nicer things will almost always cost more. So if you are after the best possible gaming experience in the mobile segment, well, expect to pay a premium. Alright folks, this will be the end of our little summary about the 5 most important things to keep in mind when shopping for gaming notebooks. As always, it really comes down to what you are looking for. Is it the super portable 14-incher that sacrifices performance for a thinner and smaller chassis? Is it the well-rounded 16-incher, which is the perfect blend of performance and portability? Or is it the desktop replacement that dials everything up to 11? Well, the decision is yours, and to enable you to make an informed buying decision, well, that is why we are doing these videos and these reviews, both on the channel and on the website. So please feel free to have a look around. And please let me know if this video was helpful for you guys and which notebook you currently have your eyes on. Again, if you think we missed something important, add it to the comments so others can benefit from the added information. That shall be it for today. Please leave your like and sub on your way out. Thanks a ton for watching. My name is Alex and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.